Hey, all you literary legends and luminaries. I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Booksmart. Today's book is Daffodil Hill, Uprooting My Life, Buying a Farm, and Learning to Bloom by Keiser. I originally picked up this book and then put it down. I feared it would be too much like one of those home shows or such with beautiful people acting like they do the work when really they don't do anything. I also feared the superficial nature of the materialistic life Keiser was leading for the farm. But then all the animals that were listed on the book jacket beckoned me. You know how much I love animals. I thought even if I didn't like the narrator, I would love the animals she writes about. So I bought it without too many expectations. I was delightfully surprised by this book. In fact, I adored it. I laughed and I cried. I was so happy to have read this book. Keiser lives in Tampa and has her own PR company. She's into designer clothes, fancy restaurants, and has high-end friends who go clubbing and whatnot. She's divorced and just got out of a relationship. Keiser has one obsession, an addiction she doesn't tell anyone about. Chickens. Baby chicks. She has been adding to her spreadsheet, creating a fantasy shopping list of all these chicks she dreams of having one day on a farm she imagines living on. And then, out of the blue, her stepmother calls her and tells her there's a farm available in Mississippi. She takes one look at it and buys it. Keiser doesn't waste much time in the book describing her Tampa life. By the third chapter, and her chapters are usually pretty short, she's moving to the farm. Let me read you what her idea is of farm life. And I just thought this was so cute. In need of some connection, I pulled out my laptop and searched for my Bible, my spreadsheets that neatly outlined all the chickens I would buy and all the eggs that were going to lay. I scrolled through a collage of images I copied and pasted from the internet, an animal and vegetable menagerie that broke down the various species and gave details on each of them. My farm philosophy was simple: form and function. I envisioned something along the lines of Disney meets Martha Stewart. The animals would have pink collars and they would never get dirty or sick. I would have a magnificent green thumb regardless of weather patterns and soil quality. I felt exceedingly confident about my spreadsheet plans and remained blissfully unaware of the fact that the only person in the world who would think to operate a farm via Microsoft Excel is a person who had absolutely no clue about nature or farm life. When I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. That's something I would do. I don't possess Keiser's Gucci or Chanel fancies, nor do I spend money on manicures or whatnot. But her idea of a farm is what I would have imagined for myself. And since the last few books I've read have been written by younger people, Keiser is of my generation, which I appreciated even more since I could relate to the timing of her change of lifestyle. Keiser has no clue what she's doing, which she is completely honest about, and it's all the more braver though. She is looking for the beauty in nature, even picking out the prettiest chickens and the cutest goats, naming all her animals. She refers to all the baby animals as babies, which is exactly what I do. I feel a camaraderie with Keiser on so many levels. In another lifetime, I could have been her, I think. And since Keiser is clueless, she tells the few people about what she's doing and they think she's crazy, which is really unfortunate. What led Keiser to ditch her previous life was that her current life was unfulfilling. She made good money, but was at the mercy of her clients calling her at all times of the day. She suffered miscarriages and failed relationships. Not too many friends gave her credit for seeking out a new way of living or of getting unstuck. As her story unfolds, it's funny as she learns how far from the country her mindset is. Because I too fear spiders, I have to read you this part. It's a good example of how she thinks and where her priorities are. And, well, you know, I could relate so much to her thinking. So she calls this guy over and she's got water leaking under her house. And she says, so he's in the crawl space. And I could hear him cussing up a storm through my floorboards. Then he started counting out loud. 1, 2, 3, sounding incredulous. For some reason, I imagined he was counting all the spiders under my house. When he got to 17, I yelled at the floor, I can hear you, you know. Why are you counting? You're freaking me out. I watched from the window as he crawled out. He was soaking wet. I met him on the porch with a towel and asked why he was counting. Ma'am, you have 24 leaks under your house. Wonderful. I wasn't thrilled with the unexpected expense, but my brain was fixated on a more pressing issue. Okay, but did you see any spiders? The blank look on his face told me that wasn't a question a real country person would ask. I just think that is so hilarious, and I'm not ashamed to say I would have asked the same thing. While I would fear water leaks, I would also fear what is under my crawl space of my house, and spiders would be one of them. Dead bodies would be the other thing. Keiser isn't afraid to let us know all that she doesn't know. We see all that she learns from the animals she's kind of collecting from her spreadsheet. Chickens eat bugs. You should never groom an outside guard dog. And apparently caramel made from goat milk is delicious. Her animal stories are my favorite, with Rupert the turkey who acts like a dog, my favorite, the goats who follow her around, the ugly duckling she rescues from its abusive family. My dog, Baby, is a Great Pyrenees newbie mix, so when Keiser writes about Luca, her Great Pyrenees guard dog, I can't help but smile. No matter how much you try to plan, life on a property filled with animals is full of surprises, like the kitten she finds a few days after moving in, the geese neighbors dump on her, as well as the wild animals that threaten her babies. The lessons she learns through her animals are priceless. Loss, joy, motherhood, and even violence. I applaud her for not giving up. All the death that happens to animals is what keeps me from living on a farm. I don't think I can handle it. Through her animals and farm, Keiser realizes that fruits and vegetables grown at home taste the best, that when you cook a meal yourself, even if it takes time and energy, is the best food to eat, that animals are like humans in so many ways, and to trust your instincts. She realizes how fake her big city life was. Here's what she writes about this revelation, and it's really rather profound, and she has it about midway through the book. Let's see. Why? I began to ask myself, had I done so many things I disliked or stayed in unfulfilling relationships far beyond their expiration dates? And then, so she's asking herself this: having the audacity to put myself first and be deliberate about quiet time had led me to consider and finally understand my own needs. I can now distinguish between what I truly loved and what I did merely because it was the popular thing to do. Back in Tampa, my life had been full of activities I did just to fill the time, things I tricked myself into thinking I liked. Yoga, for instance, in our current culture, now seemed a lot like an attempt at monetizing Zen. I was all for being mindful and fit, but the work of the farm now gave me that. Also, wine. With the exception of a couple wines I've had in Spain, I usually had to choke it down in the name of being social. I much preferred other beverages, so why had I always agreed to drink wine when, to my super taster taste buds, it tasted like chemical vomit? And I think that's a really profound question. And the thing is, she's not the exception. She's the rule. How many people, not teenagers, but adults, do things they would rather not do, but do it anyway because to not do it, whatever it is, would make you look odd or not on trend or not cool. Social media has only exacerbated this need to do what everyone else is doing. Social media has made it surprisingly difficult to just be who we are. By moving onto a farm and filling it with animals, Keiser finds out who she is. I realized I'm really biased with this book due to the animals and all, especially with the way Keiser writes about them. It will break your heart, make you laugh, and appreciate those little things, the simple things that have nothing to do with technology. At times, some of these anecdotes feel like they could have just been posted to social media or a blog, but I still enjoyed them. Someone whose life has always been in the country may not appreciate the book as much as I did and might have a much different perception of Keiser. My main complaint with the book is some of the subplots have little animal or farm focus. Keiser shares story of the men she dates, most of which are just fluff that don't add much to the story. I felt these parts weren't authentic, more so to be able to say she still attracts 20-year-olds, even though she's 40. Those are the darlings that should have been killed from the book. Only one man, Paul, who Keiser had known for years, is the only one who seems significant to the story as it reflects upon the instincts that Keiser has learned from her animal friends, how to trust her own instincts, and how to set her own boundaries, which appears to come much more naturally to the animal world. Other times, Keiser gives us stories that have nothing more than, hey, this was a funny moment, or here's what someone texted me sort of thing. Those don't happen very often and don't take up much space in the book, so I didn't find them objectionable, nor did they take away from the main focus, but they weren't necessary and acted as filler. Other times, Keiser then moves too quickly in her story, like when she leaves the farm for some Tampa trips or how she really juggles farm life and work life. Keiser opens up her farm to visitors and children, which is another thing that doesn't exactly develop enough in the story for you to understand what's happening. I don't know if people have to pay to come or what. If you're looking for a book that explains how to run a farm, Daffodil Hill is not that book. If you're looking for a book that shows how to live a sustainable lifestyle or a minimalistic one on a farm, Daffodil Daffodil Hill is not that book. If you're looking for gardening tips or how to raise baby animals, Daffodil Hill is not that book. Daffodil Hill is more for a light-hearted reading. It's a feel-good story, so much so that it even leaves you content long after reading it. Keiser does provide significant life lessons no matter where you live, and all that animals can impart upon their humans. I envy Keiser and would love nothing more than to do the same, maybe with less animals and dirt and bugs and shotguns and all that stuff. I could never handle the death of so many babies, although I would love nothing more than to have a herd of animal friends following me to the mailbox. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.